some XRP right now. They said on air XRP is the one. Is XRP truly the one? Because it is on live TV right now. And we haven't seen it on live TV before. Smash that like button, guys. XRP on live television. Again, this is pretty huge news.
Oh, just said live on air that digital assets are going to be vitally important to the financial system. She also said that all digital assets are not created equally. I think she is telling people here that only some of these assets are worth putting their money into. And we know that Franklin Templeton filed for a spot XRP ETF. So let me play this out. We also have some clips here. Donald Trump Jr. is live talking about crypto is the future of finance in America. We have Tim Scott at SALT talking about how important digital assets are. We have some other related XRP.
So every single day we are hearing more XRP news. Every single day, which is absolutely incredible. Seems like XRP is changing in front of our eyes. But Gemini partnering with Ripple amid IPO isn't like Ripple asking for an IPO in 2026. That's an initial public offering, which means XRP could explode even more. Potential Ripple IPO valuation 2025. Things are looking cozy for Ripple at the moment. There's a reasonable chance the pill is going to be dropped. You know, there's speculation of a Ripple IPO, much like Microsoft solution, MCTR. That's just a Reddit post, though. Nothing is confirmed. So Ripple holds about 80 billion XRP, our current value of approximately 120 billion. So I don't feel like they're going to value the XRP price coins to the Ripple IPO.
News towards the end here that we're going to get into.
My non-financial opinion is both like XRP and the other one is good. But again, I don't hold anyone. I just have XRP myself.
But listen to this.
What message does it send that Michelle Bowman, a Fed Vice Chair of Banking Supervision, is attending the conference? What does that signal to the crypto industry? What does that signal to the financial services industry?
Well, I think it signals that this is becoming mainstream, right? Digital assets are going to become mainstream. Now, that doesn't mean all of them. I think there's going to be some that, you know, like in anything, you have to be sort of careful and really understand the space.
There are some that you need to be careful. You need to understand the space, right? She's saying not all cryptos are created equally. Some are better than others, right? That's what I'm hearing here.
But again, this underlying tech.
That's the thing with like XRP Ripple. It's always going to be evergreen. It's always going to be around because for a simple reason, they built up this utility. They built up its brand on the past 10 years.
Technology is so powerful that bringing it together, and I think a recognition that it is important for regulators, it's important for, you know, for traditional financial people to understand the space and to figure out how to converge these things together.
Whoa, what? Let me hear that again.
They understand the space. But again, this underlying technology is so powerful that bringing it together, and I think a recognition that it is important for regulators, it's important for, you know, for traditional financial people to
Wasn't the US government like pushing utility tokens like Ripple, HBAR, XRP, all of these into going ahead, pushing towards having utility? And having all these banking licenses? That's what the future of crypto might be. We are basically on the waiting line because there's so much regulation right now.
Understand the space and to figure out how to converge these things together.
Banking, traditional finance, digital assets. How do we all work together to combine this into the next financial system, right? We know that Franklin Templeton has filed for a spot XRP ETF. If the CEO, right, is telling America that not all cryptos are created equally, only some will survive, only some are worth actually investing in, putting money into. We have a record. We can look. Franklin Templeton has made one known filing for an XRP ETF aiming at tracking the spot price via Coinbase custody. I also wanted to explore, they also filed for a Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, filed for a Solana ETF.
Yeah, so all of these, you know, filings, if they were approved for Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's very likely they already have connections to be approved for XRP ETF. You know, they probably do their research.
And it also talks about notable competitors, but they've only filed for these four, it sounds like. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Solana. Love to hear that. Here is Donald Trump's son.
Crypto is going to be the future of finance.
Yeah.
Okay. We were doing everything imaginable in the prior administration to send that to other places. People want to be in America. They want to invest in America. They want that stability. What they needed is some guide rails. They needed a framework in which they could work, even for us in the crypto platforms that we were developing, whether it was American Bitcoin, whether it's World Liberty Financial. We didn't get into that because we knew all that much about crypto. We got into it out of necessity because we were getting debanked. There wasn't a person in this city that I couldn't call and get a loan for a real estate.
I feel like this is an older video, but this is Donald Trump speaking, right? And Eric Trump, his son, just for some context.
$1 trillion industry, and it should be based here in America. America should get the tax benefits of all of that. They should have the innovation, the growth. You know, that's strategic thinking, and so I'm super excited about that bill because I think it's going to really make sure that America is the home of crypto and blockchain technology.
I agree.
So, like, literally, Eric Trump, which is the son of the president of the United States, goes ahead and says that he feels the future is crypto on live air. Can we get any more bullish than that, guys? Absolutely insane.
Agree with most of what he's saying here. Of course, you never miss the opportunity to plug your own company, right?
That's also
World Liberty
true.
Financial, cool, whatever. I do like that he's out in front.
But I feel like also like rich companies, you know, getting into crypto, of course they're coming to make money. They're not coming, you know, to fully help. They're coming for two things: to help the crypto regulation, but they're also coming to actually improve the whole system, to improve the whole ecosystem there is. The other one is because it's going to be profitable. That's what companies do. They want to make money. That's what Ripple is doing. It's being profitable for itself and for the shareholders. Brad Garlinghouse could be a trillionaire, could be because of the technology he's providing.
Talking about it, sooner or later, some administration was going to say, hey, crypto's the future. Let's go ahead and go all in on it. I cannot knock the Trump family for seeing what was blatantly obvious around the world. They're going to make billions of dollars. So what? It doesn't bother me. Some of the stuff bothers me, but that particularly, it doesn't bother me. Someone was going to do it. It's done. Since taking over as chairman, banking...
They just like see an opportunity, but that's the good thing. Crypto is seriously undertapped in my opinion. And them coming in is going to be another big update.
GOP Senator Tim Scott has worked tirelessly to advance digital asset legislation. Let me play this for you.
I believe there were 0 hearings on digital assets during his tenure.
Yes.
Now you've been leading the charge. How many have we had?
I can't even count them, to be honest with you. We've had so many hearings, markups, conversations. Just the other day I had the administration over. We are working as a hand in a glove, because if we're going to make this happen, we have to make it happen right now. I think this is the most important time in American history for the evolution of this innovative opportunity. And so I continue to have hearing after hearing after hearing. And frankly, we're passing bills. We're not just listening and talking. We're actually...
There's probably not going to be more than, you know, right now, the moment we have, there's not going to be many more opportunities like this. This is literally the few options we have right now in crypto history.
Getting things done. Yeah. And that's what this industry deserves, because it's what the American people deserve.
I love all of that. Tim Scott, you keep doing what you're doing, man. Get us that Clarity Act.
So yeah, the Clarity Act still needs to pass, guys. If you guys did not know, the Clarity Act is not fully confirmed, but it did pass into the House, if I understand it correctly. So it needs to first pass, and if it passes, it's going to go along the other news, like we have interest rates.
Get us that crypto regulation in America. Get Americans what they deserve, a seat at the table of the next financial system. Love to hear it. Let's keep it going. Here is Hypestrat, Chair and former Barclays CEO Bob Diamond warns that big banks must embrace blockchain or be left behind. What have we been saying for years on this channel? That the banks that do not adopt this technology will not be banks in 5 or 10 years.
That's the issue right now, is these banks take way too slow. Like a day is way too slow for fast transactions, and Ripple is probably going to try to save them. And maybe other competitors of Ripple will try to also come in.
It might even happen sooner than that. You got to understand that people want the latest and greatest technology. And if you refuse to give that to us, we have the right to take our money to another bank that will offer those services.
I know a lot of banks are doing like instant transfers, right? And that's why they're most used. They literally got from not being known in the last 10 years to being one of the most used in the banking system. So these are the new fintech banks. I can't name them on stream, but these banks already, I'm not sure if they use Ripple technology. Probably not. Probably they use some sort of its own technology, which is more expensive. But they have become the next powerhouse, basically. They entered the stock market. They completely changed forever.
You better get in. You better start playing ball. You better start understanding the technology. You better start making partnerships and building infrastructure. Because if you don't, good luck staying a bank in this time, right? Young people, middle age, older people, all of them are loving the crypto space. Not as much the scams, right? Because that is everywhere, and I wish we could do something more about that. But everything else, man, woo, we are getting set up for a mega run here.
David and I have spent the last...
It's very bullish if basically the mainstream media starts talking about crypto. The only thing I'm wondering, why isn't the mainstream media in crypto yet? So like most of the news is reporting about it, but most people have not been buying it. They've been just... I heard there are more people started installing the apps as well.
4 years, really starting with an understanding of blockchain, the infrastructure before we moved on to stable coins and tokens. I think the future of financial services will have blockchain as the underlying technology. I think it will be complete over the next decade. I think any large financial services organization, whether it's Barclays or JP Morgan or Citi or regional and community banks, that doesn't understand this and adopt the technology of the future will be left behind. I think when you think about transactions between large institutions, you know, today a very large US institution sending a very large billion-dollar payment to someone in China or someone in Japan or an institution in Singapore basically goes to one of the large money center banks. It will take 2 or 3 days to arrange that transaction. It'll include a lot of KYC, and it will include a very, very large fee. So over a number of days, that transaction occurs with someone in the middle, a large money center bank. And with blockchain, you know, that middle person is removed. The trust is there. The transaction isn't in 3 days. It's in seconds, 24/7. And very, very low cost.
I feel like with AI, the last 10 years, we saw the technology advance like 10 times more. So a lot of these people who have been using the old systems will be forced to change. That's the thing right now. AI has developed so much. It's literally not just AI that developed, right? It's technology in general. It's everything is becoming faster and more streamlined. And, you know, some people still want to use the old system. But that's what's happening right now in the current economy is they are being replaced. A lot of jobs are being replaced, you know, which is very unfortunate. But literally there are more jobs created on one side, and on the other side, we're losing so many jobs.
Great trust and accountability. So do I believe that the larger banks, the biggest and the best, are already investing significantly in understanding the technology around blockchain? Absolutely and unequivocally.
I should have started with that clip. Holy smokes. That was incredible. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. You have some of the biggest names. This is the former CEO of Barclays, basically saying crypto is the future. Banks either get on board or they're done. The biggest banks have already made strides. This is why Ripple was sued. Billions of dollars are at stake right now. The biggest banks are going to be the biggest losers if they cannot figure this technology out.
So why are the like $1 trillion banks literally partnering up first with Ripple? Could be just one of many new partnerships, right? Could be many more in that sense. And this is just the first wave of banking that joined XRP.
The smaller to medium-sized banks, the credit unions all over the world will have the same power as the big banks now, and they don't have to grovel at the feet. They don't have to pay for it. They can go to Ripple, they can go to Circle, they can go to HBAR and say, hey, I need some of that sweet, sweet infrastructure that we call blockchain. And they're going to say, Mr. Banker, Mrs. Banker, whoever it is, we got you. We're going to help you save 80 to 90%. We're going to get your payments there instantaneously. We're going to provide KYC, AML. We're going to provide all the compliance that you need, right? Bro, this is done deal. This is done deal. Woo! All right, let's bring it down. Let's calm down. Okay, all right. Gemini collaborates with Ripple. We did talk about this. I did a video about this, but it's being talked about more and more. And this is on CNBC, so I'd love to hear it. Let's just play this 35-second clip.
Let's talk about the top stories. Crypto platform Gemini entered a credit agreement with Ripple Labs. A Friday SEC filing reveals Gemini can initially borrow up to $75 million with the option to decrease or increase the amount to up to $150 million. Requests made beyond that cap may be made with Ripple's stablecoin. The credit line will bear an interest rate of up to 8.5%. Now, this comes after Gemini, founded by the Winklevoss twins, confidentially filed for an IPO back in June.
I feel like this could be the first steps for Ripple to go public.
The same filing from Friday reveals the platform's mid-year total liabilities were more than $2 billion.
Really quickly here, I did a video, of course, on this, but I also did a video.
Filing unveils a credit agreement with 5 million increments expandable to 150 million Ripple USD stablecoin. Like, this is just the first step for Ripple to overtake the other large stablecoins.
About Ripple becoming a lender of last resort, Ripple becoming their own version of a digital IMF, Ripple becoming a central bank. That is actually something that, that topic is starting to look more and more like sense, right? As Ripple gets their national banking charter, right? They're going to get it. Let me just be clear with you. They're going to get that national bank charter, right? The Trump administration has done everything they can for the crypto industry, especially dropping a lot of cases, right? And helping out a lot of these people and these founders and freeing up all of the craziness that happened over the last few years. I am extremely thankful for that. And I think that is going to allow Ripple, Circle, and all of these others to become their own banks. And I think this is what banks truly fear. And it's going to be exciting. And so also, this is an older clip. I know, Sensei, why are you playing older videos? I understand. Just deep breath. We're talking about, cross-border payments set to reach 30 trillion overnight and how XRP and USD can solve that at scale.
Reaching 30 trillion is going to be very hard overnight if we cannot sustain right now. We aren't even in testing phase, guys, or live phase for Ripple yet, so we're still a far way ahead on that one. We still got a long way to go.
I want to play this clip because it's a great clip, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what would need to happen. So let's get into it.
Is doing. Coming to CBDCs, why I am saying it is very important, because there are several, there are now several new animals or birds, whatever you call them, they're floating around under various names. Somebody calls it stable coins, somebody calls it cryptocurrencies. Our point of view is that let us be very careful in interpreting and understanding what consequences they have. On stable coins, the basic fundamental question that arises is, as the fundamental question that begs an answer is whether governments and central banks are comfortable with private currency. Currency is a sovereign function which the sovereign delegates to the central bank in countries like India. So therefore, are we comfortable with private currency? So therefore, these new technology products which are coming and styling themselves as great innovation, their financial consequences, their negative consequences for domestic financial stability, for global financial stability, for domestic monetary system, for the global monetary order, all that needs to be understood. And we have published, RBI, I have myself spoken about it, so I'm not going to list out what are the potential threats. Right. They pose a threat, all kinds of threats, terror financing, money laundering, apart from, currencies like emerging market currencies, which will sort of cause the central bank itself will lose control over the monetary system. There are lots of challenges, and this can become, these are highly risky. Now, we don't want that kind of a thing. In fact, on such matters, whether it is stablecoin or it is cryptocurrencies or whatever you call it, I think we need to fully understand what are the risks before sort of trying to legitimize them. We need to know before entering the water how many sharks are there inside the water. I think that is how I would put it in a very commonplace language and very bluntly. Now, so therefore, CBDC is important. The world is moving towards technology, and CBDCs have a major role because
CBDCs will have a major.
I feel like a lot of people misunderstand CBDC, central bank digital currencies, and Ripple's partnership with the banks. So Ripple's partnership with the banks is to make transactions cheaper and faster. CBDCs are basically the banks owning their own coins that they can give out to people and use for everyday transfer. It goes a lot more in detail into that, but that's the basic idea of it. And a lot of people confuse these two. So yeah, just know that CBDCs are way different than what you might be expecting.
So let's see what Ripple would need to do to really kind of take over this global payments market. Massive market opportunity. The global cross-border payments market is enormous. 31.7 trillion B2B flows and up to 250 trillion, including all volumes. Real-time gross settlement, it processes 30 trillion alone annually. XRP as the backbone of the global liquidity. XRP Ledger offers high throughput, fast finality, and low-cost transactions, making it attractive for handling large payment volumes.
Didn't XRP include all of these things like 2018, 2020, 2020, all of these stuff? Like they were adding this stuff in because, you know, they kind of predicted correctly this stuff with the banks is going to happen, like that the banks will need that. So XRP's big risk paid off.
Volumes at scale. XRPL's decentralized DEX that was built in, the first DEX ever created, natively support auto bridging, ensure high liquidity and efficient currency swaps with XRP used as the main bridge.
The issue is there's going to be a lot of competition to Ripple USD. There's going to be way more competition than you guys think. So the presence of Ripple USD attracts banks, fintechs, and large corporates who need large stability for settlement yet benefit from XRPL's efficiency. But it doesn't need to compete with like USDC or USD Tether, right? It can be its own thing where the banks use it, for example, for loans. So it doesn't even need to compete with a top 10 stable coins. It can just be, you know, used for whatever the design is.
Asset for institutional stablecoin Catalyst, RLUSD is designed as a US peg stablecoin for the XRP ledger. It allows institutional players to settle and manage treasury operations efficiently without the exposure to volatility to XRP. Does talk about CBDCs and interoperability. This is what I wanted to get to. Central bank digital currencies are now in development by major economies, will require seamless interoperable for all international payments. The thing is here, guys, if every CBDC platform has built their own kind of technology and none of it interoperates, we've recreated the exact same siloed system. So there needs to be a technology that can interoperate with all of these different systems. Enter Interledger Protocol, right? Enter the XRP ledger. XRP's role as a bridge asset makes it a prime candidate to connect various CBDCs across jurisdictions.
Connect various CBDCs across jurisdictions. Didn't Trump want to ban CBDCs anyway? So I'm not sure how much they will be used, but it's definitely still a good idea because some of these CBDCs can be used by Ripple. Now, I don't know, like if they're already partnering up with banks, they're going to enable them to have their own currencies as well. So to explode to 30 trillion, major banks, corporates, and payment processors must adopt XRPL for cross-border payments. Guys, we're in very early stages for that because Ripple still hasn't launched even fully live yet. So don't expect 30 trillion XRP to happen like anytime soon. But they are definitely calling for it. You know, people are preparing, and crypto markets, they still take some time.
Center of future digital payment rails. Network effects and liquidity rails with RLUSD and XRP functioning side by side. XRP can provide instant settlement for liquidity across borders, jurisdictions, and asset types. As major financial institutions adopt these rails in real time for real-time payments, the resulting surge in transactions volume could drive trillions in settlement actively on the XRP ledger, supported by RLUSD and the stable intermediary XRP as the underlying settlement for the bridge. What needs to happen for XRP and RLUSD to explode to 30 trillion? Major banks, corporates, and payment processors must adopt the XRP ledger for cross-border payments, move significant treasury operations onto RLUSD, and use XRP consistently for settlement. CBDC integration with RippleNet and the XRP ledger must happen at a global scale with interoperability demands fueling further utility for XRP. Institutional trust in RLUSD as a stablecoin, XRP's reliability must be cemented through.
So yeah, right now, Ripple cannot hold what the banks want. It can only hold a certain amount of transactions, and it might take some time, I'm guessing 1 to 3 years, before we finally see Ripple going for that push, where it could finally hold banks and actually trillions of transactions. So when people tell you, yeah, it's going to do trillions of transactions, it's going to be much harder than you realize. But with the advancement of technology, AI, You know, Ripple has 900 employees. I'm sure they will figure it out. It's literally $1 billion question.
Successful real world integrations. This is kind of like going to BNY Mellon and having them be the custodian in the meantime for your reserves. That is the bank of banks, $53 trillion under management. There is no other bank that has that much money. Ripple is working with the biggest and best partnerships.
And just getting its own banking license basically means they can issue their own stable coins, right? Or at least they can process, you know, in and out. Before they had to ask like another bank if they can work with them. Now Ripple is going to be licensed to do all these transactions for the ledger for themselves, which is going to save them a lot of time and fees.
America, just to name those two biggest ones, right? Ongoing technical improvement.
XRP holders, yep,